Hello beloved souls, thank you for tuning into the Spiritual Podcasts channel. This channel is all about good vibes, positive energy, and meaningful conversations. To keep this space welcoming for everyone, we kindly ask that comments stay respectful, kind, and in the spirit of the content shared here. We reserve the right to delete any comments that don't align with this intention. No hard feelings, just protecting the vibe. Thanks for being here and spreading the light. Please be cautious of anyone claiming to represent Spiritual Podcast and asking you for money, donations, or personal information. We will never ask you for money through comments, messages, or DMs. All official updates and content come only from this channel. If you see suspicious activity, please report it immediately. Stay safe and thank you for being part of our community. If you enjoy the video and its content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please be kind to other viewers of the channel. The video is about to start.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take, well, often a mountain of complex source material, sometimes really out there stuff, honestly, and we try to boil it down, get to the core knowledge you need.
Right. The goal is always delivering those surprising insights, the context that actually matters, and, what it all means all in one go.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something that, well, it really pushes the boundaries of what we think of as reality.
It really does. We're looking at decades, literally decades of channeled information, and it's all pointing towards something very specific.
Which is?
An imminent, open, mass extraterrestrial contact. And not just contact, but the huge societal shifts, the transformation it's supposed to trigger.
Okay, so the absolute core of this, the thing we need to unpack first, is this specific prediction, right? A timeline.
Yes. It comes from an American medium, Darryl Anka. He channels an entity called Baixar.
Right, Baixar. Heard the name.
And this entity, this claimed extraplanetary consciousness, has apparently confirmed a very concrete, very near future window for humanity to basically make open contact.
Okay, wow. But what makes this different from, the usual UFO stuff? There's a tension here you mentioned.
There is, because the sources describe this contact, this event, as two things at once. On one hand, it's this massive awakening for potentially billions of people, a huge expansion of consciousness.
Okay. Sounds positive.
But on the other hand, it's also predicted to be a catalyst for catastrophe, a massive shockwave.
Why catastrophe? Because we're not ready.
Precisely. The argument is that most of our institutions, our belief systems, and frankly, most individuals are just profoundly unprepared for verified proof of intelligent life that's, potentially way older and more advanced than us.
So our job today is to really dig into that, go beyond just the date. We need to look at the source itself, Anka, Baixar. Their credibility, their whole cosmology.
Understand why this predicted date seems to clash with what some people expected from the same source, actually.
Right. And then explore the fallout, the consequences for politics, for religion, for just what it means to be human.
It's a big one.
Definitely. Let's dive in. Who exactly is the source here? Okay, first things first. Before we even touch the date, let's understand the foundation. Channeling. It's a tricky area. Longevity, consistency that often comes up. So who is Darryl Anka?
So Darryl Anka, he's an American medium. He's over 70 now. And what his followers often point to is just the sheer duration of his work.
How long are we talking?
He's been channeling Baixar since the 1980s. So that's over 40 years of seminars, transmissions, lectures, a huge body of work.
40 years. That is significant. Consistency matters there.
It does. It means there's a lot of material to analyze to see if the message has held steady,
And Anka himself, he had a background in special effects for movies before this.
Yeah, which is an interesting detail. It gives him a sort of technical mindset perhaps before he moved into being a full-time channel.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, Anka is the person, the medium, the channel.
The conduit, yeah.
And Baixar is the entity, the consciousness being channeled.
Exactly. And that's where this gets really distinct from, say, traditional spiritualism. Baixar's origin story is key.
Okay, tell me about Baixar.
Baixar identifies himself, or itself, I suppose, as an extraplanetary consciousness. Not just a spirit from the afterlife, but from another world.
Another world, like an alien.
Essentially, yes. He claims to be from a civilization called the Essassani, and they supposedly exist in the fifth conscious dimension.
Okay, hold on. Fifth conscious dimension. We need to unpack that a bit. For people maybe not deep into metaphysics, we usually think 3D is here, 4D is time, or maybe the spirit world. what's 5D in this context?
Right. So in the Baixar material, the Essassani are described as this highly evolved, almost post-physical civilization. They've achieved a kind of collective consciousness, a unity.
So not physical like us.
Not in the same dense way. The fifth dimension in this cosmology is often described as the dimension of like instantaneous creation, where thought becomes reality much more directly. There's less lag time, less separation than in our 3D world.
So they're observing us from a place of much faster evolution.
Yeah.
Manifestation.
That's the idea. And they make a clear distinction between this and typical spirit channeling. The sources actually use examples people might know, like Chico Xavier in Brazil channeling spirits.
Right. Channeling Emmanuel, figures believed to be from the spiritual plane, the fourth dimension.
Exactly. The argument presented is, if consciousness can survive death and speak from the fourth dimension, why couldn't it also exist and communicate from other places, like the fifth dimension, or another planet like Essassani?
So connects spiritualism and ufology. He suggests they're related phenomena happening across different dimensions.
Precisely. It bridges that gap. And this message, delivered over 40 years, is framed as preparation. Like, humanity needs to get used to the idea of multidimensional, non-human intelligence before the actual physical reveal happens.
Opening consciousness, as they say.
Right. And that preparation is key to understanding why this timeline, this 2027 date, is suddenly so prominent. The underlying physics Baixar talks about multiverse, energy, conscious creation that's apparently been consistent for decades.
So the groundwork has been laid, conceptually.
Exactly. Leading to this moment where, supposedly, consciousness is expanded enough for some people to handle the shock.
But the big question always is credibility, isn't it? I mean, separate from whether you believe in channeling at all, has Baixar, through Anka, ever made concrete predictions that actually came true? Something verifiable that lends weight to this new, very specific date?
That's always the million-dollar question with channeled material. And honestly, Baixar's work tends to focus more on internal development, philosophy, how reality works.
More concepts than concrete events.
Generally, yes. But followers will point to broader predictions about global shifts. Things predicted decades ago, like the massive acceleration of global communication, the breakdown of single monolithic authorities, the rise of decentralization.
Which you could argue maps pretty well onto the internet age, social media, crypto, political fragmentation.
You could make that case, yeah, that the trends, the energetic shifts were accurately foreseen, even if not specific events like, who wins an election or where the stock market goes.
Okay, so track record more on the philosophical and societal trend side.
Which makes this 2027 prediction such a huge departure. It's highly specific, it's global, it's political, it's physical.
It's where the philosophy hits the pavement, basically.
Exactly. And that specificity, that shift, is why we really need to examine it closely, especially given the apparent conflict it creates with earlier messages, #tag2, the predicted timeline, and open contact specifics. And yeah, that conflict is really interesting because this earlier date, this 2026, 2027 window, seems to directly contradict what many followers understood previously.
Okay, let's get the exact prediction on the table. What is Baixar, via Anka, actually saying will happen between 2026 and 2027?
This statement is that humanity will experience a major contact event. Something undeniable, not just, a weird blip on radar or another grainy photo.
So unavoidable. Everyone knows.
Everyone on the planet becomes aware. It's meant to just dissolve doubt about non-Earth intelligence existing. And the specific phrase used is that it heralds an awakening for many people.
Okay. And the conflict you mentioned. The sources analyzing this noted that people previously expected contact much later.
That's right. For years, the understanding, often implied or stated in the Baixar material, was that open contact would happen after 2029.
And that was conditional, wasn't it?
Very conditional. It was framed almost like a graduation. Humanity had to reach a certain vibrational level, a certain maturity.
Meaning what, practically?
Meaning we had to make significant progress in resolving major conflicts, maybe disarmament, shifting towards global harmony and cooperation. Basically prove we were responsible enough to be formally welcomed into the galactic family or federation.
So, the fact that the date's been pulled forward to 2027, the implication is we failed the test. We didn't make the grade for the 2029 welcome party.
That's the heavy interpretation many are drawing from the sources, yes. It suggests we didn't achieve the necessary merit through our own efforts.
So it's not a reward, it's more like an intervention.
It's framed more as adherence to a planetary schedule, like Earth's own energetic shift, this planetary transition they talk about, has reached a point where external input is needed, whether we're ready in the ideal sense or not.
And the state of the world, the conflicts. That reinforces the idea that it's become necessary.
Exactly. The lack of harmony could be seen as forcing the timeline, accelerating the contact, because waiting longer is no longer viable according to this planetary schedule.
Wow. That shifts the whole feeling from us reaching out to them stepping in, because we're running out of time to sort ourselves out. Okay, how is this supposed to happen? If it's not diplomats landing on the White House lawn, how does it manifest?
The sources describe it as a staged reveal, actually. The big shock won't necessarily be ships appearing, but the public realization, the forced admission that ETs have already been collaborating with governments and leaders for a long time.
So it's less, hello, we're here, and more, okay, world leaders, time to tell everyone you've known we're here for ages.
That seems to be the mechanism. The physical part, the ships, is described as a controlled demonstration, not landing immediately.
And the location is specific too. Beaches and over the sea. Why there?
Seems designed to be non-threatening but highly visible. Landing in, say, Washington or Moscow could trigger immediate military responses or mass panic in dense cities.
Right, less confrontational.
Exactly. Beaches, coastlines, over the ocean, these are vast open spaces. Visible to many, but less likely to provoke an attack. It gives people time to just see them, get used to the reality, the scale of it, before any direct interaction begins.
Psychological climatization, like letting the water warm up before jumping in.
A good way to put it, it's a gradual process aimed at eventual open contact, and Earth becoming, a recognized part of this larger galactic community.
Which brings us to the Galactic Federation.
Yeah.
What do the sources say about this organization?
It's described as essentially a council or governing body made up of representatives from many highly evolved planets. The Essassani, Baixar's people, are said to be members.
And their purpose?
Maintaining order, facilitating evolution, managing interactions within their sector of space.
Do they specify which sector?
Yes, the sources often mention the Orion arm of the Milky Way. That's supposedly their main area of jurisdiction or focus.
Okay, so it places Earth within a specific cosmic neighborhood with established rules and players. It's not just random ships showing up.
It suggests a structured universe, and this structure includes elements sometimes mentioned in other UFO lore, like the Ashtar Command.
Oh, okay. How does that fit in?
The Ashtar Command is often depicted in this context as maybe the operational or protective arm of the Federation, kind of like the Peacekeepers or the fleet ensuring transitions like Earth's go smoothly within Federation guidelines.
So a whole hierarchy, a system, the level of detail, Essassani, 5D, Orion Arm, Federation, the 2027 date. It builds a very specific picture.
It does. And whether you believe it or not, that specificity forces you to consider the potential consequences if something like this were to happen. What would the immediate impact actually look like?
Right, this is where it gets really intense. Moving from the who and when to the what happens next.
Yeah.
If 2027 rolls around and there are undeniably ships hanging out over the oceans, what's the immediate human reaction predicted to be?
Utter chaos, basically. But a very polarized chaos. The sources expect a whole spectrum.
Like what?
Okay, so you'll have intense fear, people whose whole worldview just shatters, psychological breakdowns. Then, simultaneously, you'll have immense relief, people feeling like, finally, someone competent is here to fix our mess.
Or maybe people who've been waiting for this their whole lives.
Exactly. Huge celebration from experiencers, contactees, believers. But overriding all that, for the general population and especially for established institutions, the prediction is widespread panic. Because it fundamentally challenges everything.
Not just governments, but our whole idea, who we are, where we came from, our place in the universe.
Absolutely. And the first domino predicted to fall, according to these sources, is organized religion, especially those built on exclusivity.
Exclusivity meaning the idea that we are the only special creation, or Earth is the center of God's plan.
Precisely. If suddenly there's proof of Essassani, proof of a galactic federation with potentially thousands of other civilizations, well, that narrative collapses instantly.
The sources use strong language, collapse like sandcastles. How does that actually happen? Is it just a theological contradiction?
It's that, plus the implication that the ETs might represent or speak about a universal spirituality, a source that isn't confined to any single Earth religion. That makes terrestrial religious structures, especially the dogmatic ones, seem, well, limited, obsolete even.
So religious leaders are backed into a corner. What do?
The prediction is a split. Some will scramble to reinterpret their scriptures. These are the angels we always talked about, or our text predicted this, a kind of emergency theological patch job.
Trying to absorb it into the existing framework.
Right. But others, likely many, will double down on rejection. They'll declare it a massive deception, demonic, an illusion, maybe even sophisticated AI creating a hoax to lead humanity away from the true path.
Which would cause massive splits within faiths, wouldn't it? Believers arguing over whether it's divine or demonic.
Exactly, internal conflict. But amidst all this potential chaos, the ETs themselves are said to operate under one primary rule, the law of free will.
Okay, this is crucial. They respect our choices. They won't force us to believe or change.
That's the claim. They won't interfere with someone's personal spiritual path, even if that path involves rejecting the ETs entirely. Free will is paramount. However,
There's always a however, isn't there?
there is. Because while they respect individual free will, the sources say they will intervene to prevent planetary self-destruction.
Okay, wait. How does that square? If humanity's collective free will is leading us towards, say, nuclear war or total environmental collapse, and they step in to break the leaders pushing for that, isn't that a massive interference with our collective choice, even if it's a suicidal one?
That's the razor's edge, isn't it? It's a huge point of tension. The argument presented is that the line is drawn at existential threats to the planet itself, the system needed for this whole transition.
So individual choices, societal choices, okay.
Yeah.
But choices that threaten the entire biosphere or trigger global annihilation, that's where they step in.
That seems to be the distinction. Their intervention is described as very targeted, non-lethal. Using advanced means to just stop the worst outcomes, like cosmic parents taking away the matches before the house burns down. They protect the nursery, you could say.
Okay, parental supervision on a planetary scale.
Yeah.
Now, politically, this revelation about governments knowing, collaborating in secret, that's predicted to cause the biggest trust collapse ever.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the public reaction. Decades of denial, ridicule of UFO witnesses, only to find out leaders knew, were possibly interacting, maybe even making deals. The trust deficit would be astronomical.
And it blows the lid off other secrets too, right? The sources mention specific institutions.
Yes. Beyond just governments and military, the Vatican is specifically mentioned. The implication is that its archives contain hidden knowledge about human origins, past ET interactions, things that contradict established history and doctrine.
Wow. But maybe the most destabilizing thing would be suppressed technologies.
That's potentially the biggest immediate game changer. The sources claim that through reverse engineering captured craft or direct ET assistance, certain groups have access to revolutionary tech.
Like what kind of tech are we talking?
The big one is zero-point energy, clean, limitless energy from the quantum vacuum. That alone rewrites the entire global economy overnight. No more fossil fuels.
Which means the collapse of trillions of dollars in infrastructure and industries.
Instantly. Plus, advanced medical tech. Things that could cure major diseases, extend life dramatically. All supposedly held back.
Why hold it back? Control. Profit.
The sources only yes. To maintain existing power structures, the energy market, the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry, releasing this tech disrupts everything.
So the revelation isn't just ETs exist, it's ETs exist, and our leaders have been lying, withholding technologies that could have saved the planet and cured diseases.
That's the explosive combination. It triggers this massive political fallout leading to international chaos.
How so? Nation splitting.
Yeah, the prediction is a clear divide. Some nations might quickly embrace it, try to work with the ETs, share the tech. Maybe smaller nations or those less tied to the old systems.
While others resist.
Exactly. A powerful bloc, likely existing major powers heavily invested in the status quo, will reject it fiercely. They'll call it a hoax, a psyop, AI deception, an attack by rivals, anything but accept the reality.
Creating this small mess, as the source put it.
Yeah, small mess might be an understatement. It sounds like a period of intense global friction, paranoia, maybe even a kind of ideological Cold War between the acceptance bloc and the denial bloc.
So the immediate aftermath is messy. Very, very messy. What about the longer view? What's the point of all this upheaval, according to the sources? #Tech4, long-term significance, and planetary transition.
Right, if we zoom out from the immediate shock and chaos, the sources frame this whole event within a much larger context. It's tied directly to Earth's evolution, this thing called the planetary transition.
And individually, the long-term effect is this fundamental identity shift, isn't it? accepting we're not the center of the universe, not the only intelligence.
It's a huge ego check for the species. Suddenly, you realize you're part of a vast cosmic neighborhood. There are older civilizations, maybe more evolved, maybe less. There are entirely new ways of learning, new understandings of physics, consciousness, even love.
It opens up possibilities we can barely imagine right now.
Exactly. And this planetary transition concept is key to understanding why now, according to Baixar. What does that transition actually mean?
What do the sources say it means?
It's described as a shift in Earth's fundamental energy, its vibration. Like the planet itself is moving from a denser, more polarized state. Our current 3D reality of conflict, separation, ego, towards a higher, more unified frequency.
Sometimes called 4D or 5D.
Right, moving into that more subtle, less dense state of being. And this transition isn't optional. It's happening to the planet.
So the climate change, the social upheaval, the political stress, these could be seen as symptoms of the old, dense energy resisting this shift, like friction.
That's exactly how it's often framed. The old structures are breaking down because they're incompatible with the rising frequency, and the ETs, in this view, are showing up because humanity needs to consciously align with this shift.
We need to evolve internally to match the planet's new energy level.
Yes. If we stay stuck in conflict, division, ego-driven behavior, we essentially become out of sync with the very planet we live on. The ETs aren't here primarily to give us gadgets or cure diseases.
They're here because we need a wake-up call. To prioritize harmony, community, empathy, love, over selfishness and fighting.
That's presented as their core motivation. They act like mentors, maybe, or the big brother analogy is used. They watch, offer guidance, but they don't force it because of free will.
But they do step in to prevent total self-destruction, as we discussed.
Right. They protect the planetary potential, but our internal evolution, that's on us. The guidance is only useful if we choose to act on it.
Okay, let's say humanity, or enough of us, does choose to accept this, to evolve. What are the long-term gifts expected from contact, beyond just stopping the immediate crises?
Well, besides the obvious clean energy, advanced medicine, the sources point to two really profound things. First is access to truly advanced technology. Not just the suppressed stuff, but understanding the principles behind interstellar travel, maybe new forms of communication, life extension, things based on physics we don't currently grasp.
A quantum leap in science and capability.
Definitely. And the second gift, maybe even more impactful.
The true history of Earth.
Exactly. Imagine getting the unvarnished, complete story. No more manipulated narratives, no more historical blind spots crafted to maintain control or justify conflict.
What would that include?
Our origins.
Past civilizations?
Supposedly, yes. Details about actual ET involvement in our ancient past, maybe confirmation of civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria, the real story of human genetic origins. It would force a complete rewrite of anthropology, archaeology, history, theology, everything.
An intellectual reset for the entire species. That's almost unimaginable.
And that's the point, perhaps. The scale of the change is meant to shock us out of our current destructive patterns. The Federation, the Essassani, they're not presented as conquerors, but as catalysts, accelerating our development so we can finally join the galactic community as responsible, conscious participants, not cosmic toddlers playing with dangerous toys. #Tag 5. Conclusion and final reflection.
Okay, we've gone through the source, the timeline, the potential chaos, the long-term implications. So pulling it all together, what's the key takeaway for someone listening right now? Does it all hinge on believing whether ships will appear in 2027?
You know, the sources themselves actually downplay the fixation on the exact date. They offer this interesting perspective. Whether it's 2027 because we failed the test, or sometime after 2029 because we succeeded, it's ultimately irrelevant to what you need to do now.
Because contact is inevitable anyway. Part of this planetary schedule.
That's the core message. It's coming, one way or another, because of larger cosmic cycles. So obsessing over the date misses the point.
And the point is?
The point is preparation. The message isn't just, they're coming, it's, you must prepare. We can't wait for spaceships to appear in the sky to start working on ourselves and our world.
We shouldn't need an external shock to start evolving.
Exactly. The responsibility is individual and immediate. If humanity wants to join the supposed galactic community, we need to demonstrate the qualities they value. Love, empathy, responsibility, collective well-being. We need to clean up our own house, energetically speaking.
So the practical advice is, start now. Live more consciously. Take care of your health, your relationships, the planet, regardless of any ET timeline.
That's the essence of it. That is the preparation. That is aligning with the planetary transition. Doing the inner work makes you ready, whether contact is tomorrow or in 50 years.
Which brings up a really interesting idea from the sources about the real contact.
Right. The external event, the ships, the announcement, that's just the trigger. The real contact, the most important contact, is internal.
What do you mean?
It's the contact with your own deeper self, your essence. When the external world goes into chaos, when all your old definitions, nationality, religion, job title, suddenly seem meaningless in the face of this vast new reality,
Right.
what's left?
You're forced to look within
Mario.
to find your own core.
Precisely. The external contact forces the internal contact. That's the real awakening they talk about. The ships are just the catalyst.
Wow. Okay.
And that, I think, leads us to the final thought, the real stinger to leave people with.
Go for it.
If the Galactic Federation, if these beings respect our free will so much, why does it seem like only the fear of their arrival, or the shock of it, is powerful enough to make us seriously reevaluate our collective path? Why do we seem to need this massive external intervention, this deadline from beings from other worlds, to finally get serious about cooperation, about peace, about caring for each other and the planet? What does that say about us right now, that we require such a cosmic kickstart to finally look within and do the work?
A challenging question indeed. Makes you wonder what we're waiting for. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. A lot to think about there, exploring Baixar, Essassani, and this accelerated timeline. Hopefully it's given you plenty to process.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful and blessed day.